got my team and it's all I need.
What's going on, everyone? We have another episode of Game Time Excellence where we talk about your mission, mindset, mastery, and maintenance. Today we have a special guest. Like, I'm talking about really special. She has accomplished a lot in her life. She is an attorney, accountant, co-owner of Polston, one of the nation's largest firms, and she has 3 children, and she doesn't know anything about football, which is okay. And she has a quote that I truly believe in myself. She's a firm believer in a no excuse attitude. You know, a lot of times we self-sabotage our lives, and I believe if you have no excuses and you hold yourself accountable, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. And so today we have Rachel Pappy. For the people that don't know who you are, that should know who you are, Rachel, can you tell them a little bit more about you?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Shamiel. This is so exciting. I love your podcast. I've already watched the episodes you've posted, and I feel really strongly about the message that you're getting out and the information that you're getting out, and just to everybody, but especially as I post online, I really care about especially athletes knowing about business and understanding finance and understanding how to maximize their potential. So I'm not an athlete. I am not proud of the fact I didn't pay attention to football growing up. I'm not proud of that at all. I am a through and through fan of the NBA, always have been. I grew up outside of Detroit with Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. Dennis Rodman was on our team. I love basketball, so that has been my focus, and we had a lot of great teams that I could focus on. But I've been in Oklahoma for the last 15 years, and praise God, the Thunder came to Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, we got a basketball team now.
I have learned enough. No, I haven't learned anything about football since I've been here. I have learned that I've been to some football games now, and I have learned that the thing that's fun about going to a game isn't watching the people on the field or on the court, as I've now learned. I've been to more NBA games than I can count. I've been to less than 5 football games, and it's because when I go to a game, I don't know anything. I don't know the rules. I don't know I don't know why they need to stop. I don't know how many points they get for scoring. I mean, it's just like pathetic how little I know. And I realized that exactly who I am as a business person, loving the strategy, is exactly why I love sports. I love the strategy. I love watching it and saying, they shouldn't have done that. Why did they do that? And they should do this. And they've got this much time. When I watch a football game, I'm like, so what can you do in 30 seconds? I know what you can do in basketball.
Right.
But I don't know what options you've got.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's hilarious. And you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. You can beat me up later. But you were telling me off air before we began recording that, when you were younger, you had a basketball goal in front of your house, and you would shoot, hoping a scout or someone would recruit you to come play some basketball. You were hoping for the WNBA. So, tell us about that. You've always been competitive, huh?
Yeah, yes, I've always been competitive. I mean, competitive at everything from like Scrabble to Monopoly to, I was a bad sport when I was a kid until my older brother said, people don't like it when you win and just cheer incessantly about how you won. So I stopped doing that. But when I was growing up, we had a basketball hoop in the driveway. I don't even remember. I don't think the WNBA existed when I was a kid, but I swore I was going to be in the NBA. I mean, there were no women in the NBA, but I was going to be one. And so I was always in the driveway, trying every 3-pointer I could, going further and further out. And I would measure myself on the door and my height. And I, 8 to 9, I had this huge growth spurt, and I'm like, yes.
Right.
Even though my parents are like 5'2" and 5'3", I was gonna be science and make it. And I at 12 I was 5'2". At 12 and a half I was 5'2". At 13 I was 5'2", at 13 and a half, I was 5'2". And on my 14th birthday, this is a true story. On my 14th birthday, I measured myself on my door in my bedroom and signed my name. And my brother wrote next to it, I was 5'2".
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take this chance to wish you the best of the luck. Best of luck in the NBA.
Right.
Because he knew I was just kind of like, it's done. It's
Right,
done.
right.
I got no shot.
See,
I'm not Muggsy Bogues.
No, we call your brother, we call your brother a hater. That's what he was hating during that period of time.
Well, he knew every day I was out there, and every day I swore somebody was just going to drive by. Like, I was going to be that story. Someone was going to drive by the house. They were going to scout me on my driveway, and then the rest was going to be history. So.
Right. So, I feel like that was like a defining moment for you to, give up sports, I guess, and focus on business or focus your energy in another avenue. And so defining moments happen to us all over the place, from family to business to different types of areas. So is there another defining moment in your life that got you to where you are now?
Yeah, I would say, it's a hilarious story, but my defining moment actually came about when I was 12, when my whole family had gone to New York for a prayer meeting, and we had gone there because my dad wanted to see someone off before they moved out of the country. And while we were at that prayer meeting, my dad actually fainted just out of nowhere. He had driven us from Michigan to New York, and on Saturday, he just fainted. And it was at a person's house. It was at a family friend's house. They took him to a back bedroom. And when he was in that bedroom, me, my mom, my brother, and sister, we all went to the bedroom, and he asked me to pray for him. So I was 12 years old, and I prayed that God would heal him. And he fell into a coma. An ambulance took him to the hospital, and was in a coma and passed away.
Right.
And you can only imagine as a 12-year-old how that rocked me mentally. Just, that's not supposed to happen.
Right, exactly.
And out of nowhere. So I really was just faced with this, in my mind, divide of, does God answer prayers? Is he even real? Does he hate me? Or am I supposed to trust him even now? Am I supposed to trust him in all circumstances, believe he's got a plan and a purpose?
Right.
And my job isn't to know everything, but my job is to be the best me, maximize my potential every single day, and trust God. And between those two options, I chose to trust him. And it's really every single day drives me that there's got to be a plan and a purpose, and I'm going to maximize who I am today. I always think there's someone out there who's better than me. I never think I'm the smartest, I'm the fastest, I'm the this and that. I always think there's someone better. And I always am competing with myself to be better than myself than yesterday, to be better today than yesterday.
Yeah. And I love that mentality right there, because once you get caught up in competing with other people instead of competing with yourself, you begin to compare, and comparison will kill you if you continue to do it long enough. And I had a similar, not similar defining moment, but I lost my mom to cancer a couple years ago, and we prayed, and we were I was reading Bible verses to her, doing all that, and she still passed away. And I found a poem right before I was going to speak at her funeral, and I was digging through some drawers, and I finally found the poem. And the poem, I'm not gonna read the whole poem, but basically the poem was basically saying, "Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free, and I'm following the path God laid for me." And took his hand when I heard him call. All that right there, and I was like, man, maybe this was. I don't like to say maybe it was supposed to happen, but everything's okay. I feel like my mom was speaking to me, saying like everything's gonna be okay. And so what I got from that moment is I need to maximize time, because time is something we can't get back. It's a resource that is always fleeing away, and so we need to grab it and make sure we're not self-sabotaging ourselves and not doing what God has called us to do.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So Yeah, and so for I hear you say that competing with yourself, maximizing your potential. Even though you're 5'2", maximize everything you have. And so
Yeah.
how did you figure out your mission going along the way and maximizing everything you had and getting to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I would say, so, what I just described was probably the spark that made me mentally tough. I
Mm,
think that it is important to be mentally tough, that life is going to throw stuff at you. And,
mm,
people always talk about life is how you respond to it. I think that's so important. I think that there's so many seeds that can uh, chip at your toughness or chip and steer you in the wrong direction. And those things are um, just being self-centered or looking at thinking what's in my best interest and feeling bitter about things or angry about things. I think
right.
all of those things, and I'm not like some new age, life is great and I'm living on a cloud,
Right.
but I really strongly try to always be focused on find ways that I can help other people. I feel
Mm,
like uh, always having an outward focus
mm-hmm.
and maxing myself to be able to help other people. I mean, right now we've got the coronavirus happening
Right.
across, and it's a pandemic across the
Mm-hmm.
nation. It's something we've never seen in this country. We've never experienced. Our economy is taking a hit like never before.
Right.
And in this moment, when everybody is sort of suspended and stuck and not knowing where their next dollar is coming from, I'm a lawyer, I'm
Mm-hmm.
an accountant,
Mm-hmm.
and I help business owners. So for me, the number one cry in my heart is, how can I help? How can
Right.
I get in this fight? How can I help? How can I run into the battle? Well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, there's laws being passed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lawyer. I can read laws. Let me figure
Mm-hmm.
out what's out there to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I started making videos from home
Right.
on here's what the law says, here's what's available for you. You don't have to use me, but
Mm-hmm.
here's what it is. And I want to break it down for you. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how you go about it. And here's
Right.
what you need to know. Here's what I'm going to warn you about. So I feel like that opportunity is always there to always see how can I use what I've got? How can I use
Mm-hmm.
my resources? How can I use my strengths and my talents to bless other people?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're maximizing what you've got, I mean, other
Mm-hmm.
people want it. They want what
Right.
you've got to
Mm-hmm.
offer. And it actually does return itself in abundance.
Right, right, right. And I hear you say that, and it's no surprise, where you are now because I didn't mention this earlier, but you won I gotta look down my paper. Most outstanding young lawyer. I don't know what year that was, but
I'm
most
not that
outstanding.
young anymore, right?
But no. First of all, what's that saying? Black don't crack, beige don't fade, or something like that. And you know, you, you look great. But
Thank you. I'll take
um,
it.
so so you went along your journey. You're from Michigan, and you went to what school did you go to?
I went to Wayne State in
Wayne State.
Detroit.
Okay, and
And
then
then I started my master's in Florida in Tampa.
okay.
And about halfway through doing my master's and working towards getting my CPA, I
Mm-hmm.
decided to become a tax lawyer instead.
Mm,
And part of that is I was working as an accountant at that time. And my dad had always been a business owner before he passed away. And working with business owners, I realized how the government and the system is really stacked against business owners, and I just
mm,
wanted to be on the side helping them. So that's what I do now. I get to help business owners, help self-employed people,
right.
and use the laws and really feel able to help them.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. So that's kind of how. So your dad. It sounds like he was a very strong piece into what you're doing now, and that's part of your mission is to help business owners. And then you see it as an opportunity to. I saw your videos, and as far as the laws, I can't remember the laws off the top of my head. It was the PPPL and dang it, don't tell me, don't tell me.
EIDL.
EIDL. You told me EIDL, and I saw
Sorry.
that, and I thought it was amazing because me being a sole proprietor, I needed to hear that because if I don't, I'm missing out on resources that I could use. And so, your mission is to help businesses out. And so, I would love for you to go into some of the laws that people could be using right now to help them out in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there has been 3 different pieces of legislation that's been passed due to the coronavirus. So the first bill, I'm not going to talk about it all because it was related to healthcare and pouring billions of dollars into research and funding and vaccinations and trying to dissect this antibody in the blood and all of that. So we're not worried about that. I'm focused on the business owners and the 2 pieces that came out to help them. So the first was the Families First Act. It was the second coronavirus bill, and it had a piece to it that was trying to help with this concept of flattening the curve. And I think everyone understands this now, but the whole concept of flattening the curve is to slow the spread of the infection on the thought that we're all going to get some level of infection in our communities at some point. But if we can slow that spread, flatten that curve, then we won't exceed our hospital capacities or our healthcare capacity, and then less people would die as a result. And not just from the coronavirus, but if our hospitals are maxed out and someone has a heart attack, they're just going to die. Or whatever other emergencies are happening, we have the capacity to be able to sustain as a nation. Well, the problem that we had from a business and an economic perspective is people were still living their lives. I mean, you can say pandemic all you want and be careful, this is a highly contagious virus, but people are just still going out, going to stores, going, everywhere, right? The gym, wherever whatever happens in their life, they're going there. And so even after concerts were canceled, sporting events were canceled, schools were canceled, how do we get businesses to let their employees stay home? How do we mandate that? And so in the Families First Act, the government said any business that has less than 500 employees, which is basically the majority of small businesses in America, less than 500 employees, you have to add 10 paid days off or 80 hours of paid time off to your current policy. And you've got to pay your employees at their current rate, at their regular rate, plus you have to add 12 weeks of mandated FMLA, 10 of which is going to be paid at 2/3 of their rate. And so on top of whatever your regular policy is, and all of these employees get to stay home for any coronavirus related reasons, which can include their kids' school being closed.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge. And honestly, when it was being debated, I was shocked to think that this could pass. And now you're going to put this burden in an economy that's already suffering, and you're going to have all these business owners now mandated to pay employees to stay home. And how are they supposed to do that when they don't even have income coming in as it is? I mean, you've got a coffee shop with 12 employees, and now they're supposed to pay them to stay home and pay them for 80 hours to stay home and then another 10 weeks. I mean, how is that going to happen? The coffee shop doesn't have any money. So as soon as that bill was passed in March, we saw tons of businesses lay off millions of employees. I mean, everyone's reporting on how unemployment is at historic highs. It's unprecedented, the unemployment we have in the nation. And I mean, I know a business owner who closed all the restaurants he had in the state, in multiple states, because there's no way he's going to be able to pay all these people to stay home. Obviously the purpose of that was to say, we got to get people to stay home. How do we get the employees to self-select themselves to stay home when they are going to work because they need to feed their families? So the goal was to get people to stay home, require the business owners to step in to pay. And then the business owners said, we don't have the money, we're firing them, or we're shutting our business down, or whatever it may be. Okay, well, that went into effect on April 1st. And that Families First Act also had some payroll tax credits associated with it that everyone that watches this needs to know about, because you can get reimbursement or claim the wages that you paid under the Families First Act and maybe get that money back. But that's a separate piece. The more important piece that I want to talk about is the EIDL loan that you referred to, that I did jump in and say the acronym for, sorry. EIDL stands for Economic injury disaster loan,
Okay.
EIDL, and it's through the SBA. It's always existed, or as the SBA was providing it before this. They've just changed the rules for it due to the COVID-19 pandemic that we're experiencing now. And so now you don't have to prove that you can't get credit elsewhere. You can have credit lines elsewhere. You can get other loans. You don't have to personally guarantee this. You don't have to secure the loan with collateral. The repayment term is interest rate of 3.75 for businesses, 2.75 for nonprofits. You can repay it over up to 30 years. You can defer payments for a year and then start making payments. You can also pay it off early and not have any prepayment penalties or fees. You also could get up to $10,000 in an emergency cash grant that could be forgiven. Wow. And so that's been a huge piece, particularly for people who just need money right now and they're trying to figure out how to pay their payroll and how to cover their expenses and really are out of options. So this is a great option to get you some cash now. The maximum loan amount that is available through the EIDL is $2 million. Okay. So your business can get up to $2 million in all the terms that I just said. And even if you get approved, you don't have to accept that money. So you could just apply. I would recommend you apply just to get approved to be able to have it. And there was one more thing I wanted to mention about the EIDL, the disbursements. That's what I wanted to talk about. The SBA just changed in the last week or so that they're only providing initial disbursements of these loans at a rate of $15,000. And that may be a lot of money to somebody who maybe has an employee or two, but to someone that has 100 employees, $15,000 isn't going to go very far if their payroll is $600,000. So I say that as a caution. These initial disbursements of these loans are $15,000. And the reason for that the SBA has been reporting or has been reported is there's such a high demand for these loans, for both of the loans at unprecedented levels for good reason, that there is very real concern the money's going to run out, even though they've been allocated billions of dollars. We have at least 32.5 million businesses, registered businesses in America, and this can go to any DBA, any sole prop, any independent contractor that may not even be a registered business. So everyone's applying for these loans. They're worried the money's going to run out, and they're trying to get some funding on the back end. And in the meantime, handing out these $15,000 disbursements to the people who are getting approved. That's the one loan. Did you get all that?
No, I got all that. I'm gonna go. The good thing about this is I'm gonna go back and listen to it again. I'm gonna take all the notes. So people, if you're listening right now and you feel like you just drank out of a fire hose, that is fine. Go back and listen to it again and take some notes. It's just like playing football. Study the film. You got to watch it over and over and over again. So keep on going. This is great information.
Yeah, this is just like football. This is all in my head. And just like I said, with watching a football game, when you don't know the rules, you don't even know what you're watching. I mean, you don't. And for me, I'm not reading this off anything because I know all the rules. I'm helping clients strategize on all this, and there's a reason I know all the rules. I need to know all these rules because they're interwoven, and frankly, there's traps in these that can prevent you from getting forgiveness, which is why I have it all right up here. The PPPL loan. Okay. Ready to talk about the PPPL?
Yeah. Okay. What's the PPPL stand for? I knew the acronym, but I just didn't know exactly what it stood for. So what does it stand for?
Okay. So we have the PPP stands for Paycheck Protection Program Loan. Okay. So PPP is Paycheck Protection Program, and the L is the loan. And it was created in the CARES Act. And it's available now. So business owners were able to start getting it 2 weeks ago on Friday. And then last Friday, April 10th, it opened up to self-employed individuals like independent contractors and sole proprietors and DBAs. So now everybody is available to go and get the PPPL. And the difference with the PPPL versus the EIDL is the EIDL is through SBA, through the SBA, while the PPPL is through private lenders. Okay. Now, private lenders are saying, hey, just come to us. We'll be able to get you the loan. the problem that we're finding, and the reason a lot of clients are hiring us is we're not charging to assist with the PPPL application. We're helping people get this payroll together and this analysis together that they need to be able to apply for the loan. But it's the back end that I want to describe that is what is tripping people up and that a lot of people have questions about. So I'm going to talk about the PPPL loan, what PPPL, what it is, what the terms are, and kind of compare it and contrast it with the EIDL. So you can get both. Doesn't matter what your business structure is. If you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, an S corp, whatever it is, if you've got less than 500 employees, and there's a caveat for the food industry, but hospitality industry, but if you've got less than 500 employees, you can get both of these loans. You can get approved for both. You can get funding from both. And then you just have to make sure one of the rules is you cannot spend both of the loans on the same thing, or you're going to lose the forgiveness on the PPPL. The PPP,
those little traps right there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many traps. I just made a video about 5 warnings I have about these 2 loans if you get them and what to be careful about, because I think it's important everyone maximize the relief that's available. I don't think that the government's trying to trip people up. There's a reason why they wrote it like this. I mean, the Paycheck Protection Program is called that because they're trying to get money to business owners to be able to pay the payroll for employees who they would otherwise lay off because they don't have the money. I mean, what's that coffee shop supposed to do, right? Are they supposed to pay those people? So you get this money. It's calculated based on your payroll times 2.5, and you get to roll some other expenses in there. Payroll costs times 2.5, that's your loan amount. Or if you don't have payroll, if you're self-employed, for example, so you're the only person that works for your company, you get to use your net earnings over the last 12 months, the prior 12 months, net earnings times 12, total net earnings over the last 12 months divided by 12. And then that gives you your average monthly net earnings. And you take your average monthly net earnings and times it by 2.5.
Okay.
It's really the same calculation as business owners with payroll. You take payroll costs and some other expenses over the last year divided by 12, and then you multiply that by 2.5. And the difference is if you don't have payroll, what do you do as a self-employed sole proprietor, for example? So you take your net earnings. Now here's what you need to know. You take those net earnings, you get this loan amount, and your net earnings has to be below $100,000. Same with payroll. You can only include payroll below $100,000, and you have to prorate other costs. When you get your funds, here's another trap. You have to spend at least 75% of the funds on payroll or your earnings in the 8 weeks after you get the money. At least 75% has to be spent on that in the 8 weeks after you get the money, or you will reduce or lose the forgiveness you're entitled to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you need to make sure you're using that money right. And then there are some other allowable expenses you can spend the rest of the money on. And those, if you don't use that money on the allowable expenses in the bill, and it's things that you probably have expenses for, rent and utilities and other interest debt obligations you had entered into before February 2020. And so certain things like that, health insurance premiums, that you can spend the rest of the loan money on. And if you spend it on all these allowed things that are in the law, these laws are my best friends right now. If you spend it on these allowable things, then you can get forgiveness on the total loan, which is amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. The loan amount, the max loan, the EID loan was $2 million. The PPP loan is $10 million of a max. It's based on this calculation, whereas the EID was based on your credit score and your need. So there is a different way that it's calculated. Other difference is the interest rate for the EID was 3.75 or 2.75 for nonprofits. For the PPP loan, the interest rate is 1%.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to ask about that. I was about to ask, like, what's the difference between the EIDL and the PPPL as far as the interest rate? Because, you talked about deferring your loan payment, and depending on the interest rate, that can make you or break you. So I'm glad you touched on that, though.
The interest rate it's a big difference, but the repayment terms are significantly different, which is probably the next thing I want to talk about. And that is, even though the interest rate is higher with the EIDL, you get 6 months to defer it. I'm sorry, you get 1 year to defer the payment, and then you get to repay it over up to 30 years. Whereas with the PPPL, the interest rate's only 1%, but you can only defer the payments for 6 months. Then you must make interest-only payments, and you have to pay the whole thing back that's not forgiven within 24 months, the entire thing. So if you're at the high end of that and you got $10 million and you also didn't spend the money right and you're not forgiven, you've got to pay $10 million back in 24 months. And you have 1% interest that accrued on that. So that's not chump change.
Right.
Here, and you got to pay it back fast. So there's pros and cons to both.
Right.
Like I said, you can't spend it on duplicative purposes. Also, if you took those payroll tax credits that I had referenced earlier, you're going to lose or reduce the forgiveness on your PPP loan. Gosh, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. I can't think of what it was. The lenders right now are not getting together all the paperwork that you need to be able to help you on the front end with completing the application or making sure on the back end that you're spending this money right. And that's the piece I wanted to make sure everyone understands is I had mentioned we're not charging for getting this application or assisting with the application for the PPPL loan. Right. Also, you should know the lenders aren't charging you either. It's the government that's paying the lenders and the agents. We would be considered an agent. And and so to assist with the PPP loan, it's the front end stuff that you need done and the back end stuff that you need done that I think everyone should understand. It's more important. It's not as straightforward as your normal mortgage loan that you would apply for at a bank. You know, those types of loans that you may have applied for in the past, the lender created it themselves. So they've got this streamlined process and here's exactly how it's going to happen. Here's what we need. This is totally different. This was thrown on them from the government. The lenders themselves are trying to throw together how they're supposed to go about this. Wells Fargo last week said we got as many apps as we're allowed to based on our cap, which was $10 billion. And since then, the federal government lifted the cap on Wells Fargo and said, okay, we'll give you some leniency. And you can, and that was due to some other, that they had that cap for other reasons. But the demand is really high. And there's talk about new legislation that might be coming out. And the reason is because everyone can already see, even though this stimulus was $2.2 trillion and the largest stimulus that has ever been created, this is not a problem like any other hit to our economy we've ever seen, where it's like this is just hitting the housing industry and trickling out from there. This is everyone, everywhere.
So do you have, so what are some, as I'm listening to you talk about it, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm putting myself in the shoes because, I'm a business owner, I'm a sole proprietor. But if someone has, say this lasts for, 6 months, 7 months or whatever, but right now someone is, they don't need it. What would you recommend, them do? But they might need it, 6 months from now, 7 months from now. What would you recommend?
No, that's such a good question. The problem with this loan that so I have been in contact with our congressmen, both them contacting to say, hey, what you said about the stimulus check, maybe we could talk about that. I'm not, there's a lot of things wrong with this bill. There's things that we're trying to help maybe address or clarify, and you may have seen reporting, there's stuff coming out every single day that here's the new guidance on this, and here's the new guidance on this, and here's the new guidance on this. It's constantly changing. I feel like every day the government's saying in 3 more weeks people will get their stimulus check, and the next day I wake up and it's in 3 more weeks they're going to get the stimulus check. But if somebody right now doesn't need a loan, my very real concern, and it's already proven a little bit by the SBA slowing the roll on these disbursements of the loans themselves, is the money is going to run out. I initially had calculated, hey, if every business got $2 million from the SBA, it's not even 1% of the businesses in America. And if every business got $10 million from the PPPL, I mean, that's 1,000 businesses and you're out of money based on what's been dropped into these buckets by the legislation that's passed. Granted, everyone's not going to get $10 million and everyone's not going to get $2 million, but even at some more reasonable calculations of $50,000 and $100,000 per business, let's say, on average, and we just got a client funded who did qualify for over $500,000, and another business that was over $250,000. So there's going to be the high and low end of this all across the country. We have a very real concern the money's going to run out, and I think because the funding's being from the SBA being sort of initially being rolled out at $15,000 now, we think that they think the same thing, and it's why they're trying to get more money from the government. It's why the government themselves, congressmen and women themselves are trying to piece together how to put more money in these buckets. And so if you don't need the money right now, I would be very concerned that right now it's an unknown date on when this is going to end, when life is going to go back to normal. And how much of a cash runway do you have? Right.
Okay. So you should think about, that point right there. How much of a cash runway do you have? And if it doesn't, if you don't have a cash runway where you can last, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you should probably think about getting one of these loans. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, I would say get it now. I mean, just following through on that logic. If you've got them, if you have money in reserve, well, get these loans now. Use them for the purposes they're intended for. If you use it according to the law, you can get forgiveness on the PPPL loan, and you're just paying the 1% interest. And if you don't even, if you could just pay off the 1% interest, it's not going to compound over 24 months. And then on the EIDL loan, same thing. You could get up to $10,000 of forgiveness on the EIDL loan. And if you just got that money and then got it forgiven, I mean, you just held on to the cash that you have right now in reserve.
Right. No, that makes so much sense. And so, as far as this information, if you're not, I guess if you're not watching the news or anything like that, where do you gather this information
at? I always have been a news information junkie. Okay. Just as a profession, I feel like I have to stay on top of the news and legislation. I don't have any one source. I would say choose reliable sources.
Yeah.
And also, I think right after this, I'm going to be interviewed by NBC today. And one thing I would encourage you is that reporting is reporting, and I think that they are doing a fantastic job of staying as current as possible on the law. Right. But what you shouldn't feed into a lot is personal accounts or anecdotes like, oh, this person already got their stimulus check. Well, how did they already get it? Well, nobody's actually gotten a stimulus check. Some banks are advancing the money, and some people are, sort of like these, cash advances. Right. So it's rely on reliable sources, and as best as possible, try to get breakdowns of bills as soon as they do pass. And one thing I recognize I have to do all the time is stay on top of what's being debated. But I don't get too into the weeds on memorizing what's being debated, because frankly, in the political climate we're in, it all gets scratched. And the bills, if you've ever looked at them, they've got margins this big, and I think it's because they all just make it up before they vote and add in the columns. Stay abreast of it. Don't feed into, personal anecdotes of this is what it is, and rely on reliable sources. And know what the law is after it passes. That's more important than whatever's reported before it passes. A good example is a few weeks ago, before the CARES Act passed, there was a lot of reporting on what it included, and it changed. Well, actually before it passed the House, and it changed right up till it passed. And then there was reporting about what might change before it became law, and nothing really changed. So
right. No, it's an interesting time that we're in, as far as, being able to, as a businessman, as an athlete, just as an individual in general, being able to have mental toughness, one, two, being able to pivot and be flexible with what's going on, because things are always changing every moment. And so with that being said, one, I want to say this. Do you have anything else you want to touch on with as far as the laws and taxes that people could be taking advantage of?
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, there is just so much with these laws, but I would say, I think you made a great point. I think mental toughness is so important right now. I think that the most important ingredient that everybody needs to have, everybody, I mean, if you're an employee or if you're a business owner or if you're self-employed, everybody needs to have hope. My theme has been stay home, stay hopeful. Because the thing that our economy needs more than dollars, when this is all said and done, we're going to need the dollars, which they're trying to push it out.
Right.
But our economy runs on this house of cards of hope. And everyone needs to not feel beat down and like this is the end of the world right now, and just stay home, stay hopeful. Not to sound cliche about it, but that's going to be the most important ingredient of all. And it's something that no bill is going to be able to create. Right.
No, I definitely agree with that because, I think there's, don't quote me on this, but this is just my opinion. I think there's probably like a spike in people's mental health, like going down because, not being able to do their normal routine, not being able to be around their community. And when you feel there's an insecurity within your home and your finances, that causes a mental breakdown. So exactly what you said, being mental toughness, hopeful, and shoot, try to get some sun though. I will say this: just stay away from people. Try to get some sun if you are staying at home, because me and my daughter, we've been riding her scooter and I've been walking and praying and things like that, and so that's been good because as a parent, I have so much more respect for, I go around, do motivational speaking at schools, colleges, businesses, but now I have so much more respect for the teacher because my daughter doesn't listen to me. She wants to eat when she wants to eat. I ask her, does she want grapes? She says no. I ask her, does she want cereal? She says no. I'm like, what do you want? She doesn't tell me. So I just don't know what to do during this period of time. So I have respect for all the teachers, and I'm pretty sure you're going through that same thing. So how are you dealing with the balance of, keeping the businesses knowledgeable and helping them out with all the resources that are available and taking care of your 3 children?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not doing it alone. We have about 120 employees in multiple states. So it's not a one-man show for me, thank goodness. And I think that's, it's interesting because in this journey of building this business, it's myself and my business partner, Rod Polston. And when I first joined him, he had a receptionist, an accountant, and a case manager, and an intern. So 3 employees. Okay. And so now to have so many people that we can rely on, I can tell you every step of that way. We've worn every hat, every step of that way, from cleaning the bathroom in our office to whatever it needed to happen, answering the phone and scheduling appointments and meeting with clients, to business operations. And even now, still right now, what we're doing is every single morning, every single manager, we have about 13 managers. They're all on a phone call every morning. We talk about everything that's changed from the day before. That's probably the most difficult part about this area of the law right now, is that every single day there has been a new guideline, and it's not just, something could happen late on a Friday. And so we're scrambling over the weekend trying to figure it out. But every morning at 8 a.m., we're all on a call going over everything that's changed from the day before, what our clients are finding, what we're hearing from the lenders, what we're hearing from the government, what we're hearing from the SBA. We're all in conversations all day long, either with business owners or agencies, and getting everybody up to date on what we need to know for that day and to help clients. And then we're just going out and also all trying to work remotely. And lots of people like myself, I have 3 kids at home that I'm trying to homeschool. And so it's juggling all that. I'm not going to pretend I'm doing the homeschooling well. I'm definitely not going to pretend that. Praise God, I have some smart kids, so I'm not too worried about them. But it's a whole new world. And
Right.
the good thing is, I think everybody has a lot of grace for everybody right now, which we need it. But I also think that you put out there what you think is possible. And, you know, just like I said earlier, we ran into this battle to try to help business owners. And we actually are busier now than maybe any time that we've ever been. And it's because we're staying on the forefront of how to help people. And I
Right.
really want to help people. I think I've always wanted to help business owners. And now more than ever, I'm seeing businesses on the verge of collapse that were humming along just
Right.
a few months ago. And it's devastating. Businesses, homes, communities. I know plenty of people personally who've been laid off from their jobs from huge employers. And so
Right.
if I can do something to help right now, that is the best way. That gives me what I feel like is balance, just being able to help. That's my priority.
Right, right. So, serving. And I think that's one of the best ways, I have this like the beginning of all my speeches. I talk about two things. I talk about having an attitude of gratitude, and I talk about giving. And I think giving is one of the most selfish things you can do, and one of the most unselfish things you can do. Selfish because when you give, it makes you feel good inside. And then when you give, man, you have the opportunity to change somebody's world. And so, if you're in a hopeless state, I would encourage anyone to figure out a way they can serve and give to others during this period of time. And so another thing you said that caught my attention is, have grace for yourself, because, maybe you're not doing the best at homeschooling, and that's okay. I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about like other people out there in the world. But have grace for yourself,
And you got to
because
feed them. You got to feed them too.
you do have to feed them. I mean, you just give them water and some crackers. They'll be good to go. I'm joking. So, don't call any services on me. So
how long is recess? I'm like, that's how long can I extend recess?
Recess over here is it's about 2 to 3 hours. I turn on a movie, we go outside. So I extend that pretty long. But as far as, your business, you have 120 employees, and I think a lot of I think a lot of sports translates over to business. And so, I've been a part of some winning teams, I've been a part of some losing teams. And I think there's some key principles within a winning team that translates over to business. I think about, the environment you create. I think about like having empathy. I think about competition. I think about the energy you bring into the building. All that type of stuff correlates to building a winning team. So in your personal opinion, what is your opinion on building a winning team?
Yeah, no, good question. So my business partner and I, we really, we both love sports. He loves football. I love basketball. And we actually do think that the best people have some level of inner drive. The best people, I should say, who are the best fit for our team. That's really what I mean. They have they have a high level of inner drive. And there's only so much you can do pushing from behind. The best fits with our team just take it upon themselves to push themselves, to maximize themselves, to see each day as a new opportunity and a new challenge. And sometimes that means, sometimes it's easy to identify because they used to be athletes. And so we can say, oh, okay, that person, was a high school basketball player, high school football player, or college, whatever. And we can identify that pretty easily, because to play, especially at higher levels, you have to have a lot of inner drive and be self-motivated. And it's every meal, every day, every practice, every decision that is going to affect you. We find that translates directly into business. And I told you about my days playing basketball on the driveway. I never became an athlete, unfortunately, but I think that the same thought is true, in that I have a great deal of inner competitiveness. I'm competitive in everything. And that competition, for me, I channel it into being competitive with myself. And so that just makes me want to be better every day, which makes your organization better every day. And it's this balance, because you can only, when you've got, okay, we'll talk about a pro football team. When you've got a pro football team, you can push them because there's a great reward that
Mm-hmm.
is ahead of them if you just about break them.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that with accountants and attorneys and case managers, and I can't break them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go find
Right,
another
right,
job.
right.
So the reward has to match, and so it's frankly just better if we find people who recognize that their life is not about being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
It's about pushing themselves. It's
Mm-hmm.
about having that inner drive to be the best version of themselves every day.
Okay, no, I love that, and I mean, you see that from the exactly what you're saying. You see that from the Patriots organization. They don't always get the most talented people, but they get the people who fit their team, and high character individuals, people who can add a ton of value, things like that. And so that's kind of what I hear from you is finding people who fit your organization is so key to building a winning organization. As a leader, what are one of the ways you try to inspire? I don't want to say motivate, but inspire people to reach that next level.
Yeah, I would say just as a leader, I mean, it's a lot of different things. One, as leaders, we try to lead by being servants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a foundation called the Servant Heart, Rod Polston Servant Heart Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And we say this over and over in a lot of different capacities. There's never any job that's higher or lower than any other job at our firm. There's no responsibility that's higher or lower than any other task at any organization, in our opinion. A story that I always think about is I have an uncle in Florida who worked for a car dealership, and the owner of the car dealership saw my uncle pick up some trash off the ground and go walk over and throw it in the trash can, and he got a promotion the same day for picking up some trash and walking it over to the trash can. And it was because the owner saw that and said, that's the kind of person I want. And that probably translates best to our organization too. There's no job that's beneath anybody. There's no job that's higher or lower. And we say this, we emphasize this with all sincerity. I also want to maximize everybody on our team to be the best version of themselves, not just to stay with us, but even if our firm is a catapult for them to their next greatest thing, I would rather be that catapult than have employees who are mediocre, who aren't fast runners, who aren't pushing themselves, that are apathetic at our organization. And those individuals we found self-select themselves out because maybe they're not a fast runner and they don't want to be with us because we expect people to be fast runners. And so we embody that by being servant leaders ourselves and also pushing ourselves all the time. Myself and my business partner, we push ourselves every single day. And we also lead by showing nothing is ever about us. I mean, you get so many opportunities. I think right now during this pandemic, employees are able to see their employers for who they are and how they're treating them. I think in your business, you get so many opportunities to see your business owners for who they are by the choices that they make. And for that very reason, what's happening right now in our country is heartbreaking, because sometimes you can have all the heart in the world, and want to take care of your employees. And the money is just not there. And you just have to make a financial, logical decision. And usually when I'm helping business owners who are in a financial crisis, I can tell you this to give you some hope. I'm finding that most of my business owners who are in a financial crisis got there because they cared too much about their employees and didn't want to make those tough choices when the money just wasn't there.
Right. No, that's that's like really good to hear, because if you watch the news, unemployment rates are at an all-time high. And so in your mind automatically goes to the most negative thing possible. So you're automatically thinking, how dare all these business owners lay off their employees? People have families, people have mouths to feed, they have rent to pay. How dare you? But so, to hear that other side of it is actually good to hear. I mean, it doesn't change the, what's going on, the climate, but to know that people's hearts are in the right places is always good. And so to kind of flip the script a little bit, maintenance, I've seen Tom Brady play for a long, long time, and same thing with NBA players. You know, you see LeBron, he's playing for 20 years. You know, he has the hair transplant and all that type of stuff. Not talking about his hair, but
I love LeBron James. Please do can't be part of this.
I love LeBron James too, but you know, I'm just saying I need to get some myself because I have a McDonald's edge up going on right now. But in order to play that long, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all those things right there. You have to take care of yourself and you have to make an investment. So what are some of the ways you have been able to, one, take care of yourself physically, two, take care of yourself emotionally or mentally, and then the last one, spiritually? How have you been able to do that for yourself with everything that's going on?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. I'm not going to pretend like I have the greatest balance that I've ever had, because right now is not when I've had the greatest balance of juggling all the balls in the air. But I think I've got some fundamentals that always ring true. For one, for me, seeing my identity in God is more important than anything else. And I'm always just trying to make sure I'm aligned with what I think He wants of me. And I do that by, I try as best as possible to read the Bible in the morning and spend some time just not thinking about myself and thinking about just reading about, you know, if you read the Bible, it's usually stories about other people's lives and mistakes they've made or ways they've gone wrong. And just kind of putting myself in those stories and thinking through like the mistakes of history and getting out of whatever's happening in 2020 and and especially because life just repeats itself. So what can we learn, whether you think the Bible's real or not, what can we learn from these stories that historians will say, this is a factual book. This is history. And then I try to do the same thing at night. And that for me, those two things are definitely a reset, in the morning and at night. And then in the day, I mean, besides reading the law, I love podcasts. I love watching YouTube videos. I soak up information. You can't dog on LeBron because I like what he's doing online with trying to get information out and trying to educate the public. And I love that. I eat all that. I mean, I just absorb all of that stuff. I think we always all have to be learning. I don't think that there's a point. I started putting on healthcare, like if I would go to the hospital or something, you know, where you employed, I put student, because I had learned in the formula, the algorithm in healthcare was basically based on your ability to pay. And I figured student of life makes a lot less than attorney. So I'm a student of life on anything that is going to use my profession to calculate how much my bill should be.
That's hilarious.
I think it's true, though. You need to be a student always for the rest of your life. Hopefully I never stop learning. And then physically, I mean, it just goes back to me always being competitive with myself. There's always going to be someone. I'm not at any athlete level and keep taking care of myself, but I feel like every choice every day does add up, and I just feel better about myself, and I feel like I'm able to think better, be better for my kids, be better for my clients when I have energy, which I think is all fueled by what I'm choosing to eat. And for me, I can say I sleep better and think better when I just have some kind of cardio or just feel better about myself.
Yeah, no, I love that you do that because, you know, what I've noticed, you know, after leaving the athlete world or the NFL world, athlete world, same thing. Yeah. So after I leave that world, I realized that in the business world, nonprofit, just everyone that's not an athlete, I realized that one, I posted about this the other day. They don't train their mind, you know, so they don't have any mental toughness, you know, when things happen. And as an athlete, you're kind of put through the fire. You put through the fire of running 20 stadiums until your legs burn. You're put through the fire of getting your spot taken. So it's like things like that are happening at an everyday basis. And you can kind of put yourself through these same things as I don't like saying regular individual, but as a non-athlete. I think that's a better way to say it. And so to build your mentality. And then the next thing I notice is, as far as like physically, people like, they stop taking care of themselves after high school, college. But you hit this right on the head right here is people are depending on you. You have employees depending on you. You have your family depending on you. Shoot, God is depending on you to take care of yourself so you can accomplish his plan and the mission for your life. And then lastly is what you got?
Oh no, I was gonna say I think it's a really easy choice to not take care of yourself.
Oh,
and
yes.
The reason is because in a lot of ways it just feels really selfish. When you stop to go to the gym, it feels like, oh man, that's time I could have spent with working on this. Oh, that's time I could have gotten this done. Oh, I needed to, I could have worked with my client. I could have looked at this longer. I could have spent time with my kids. And so every time you take time out for yourself, I think so many people don't, because it just feels so selfish when they consider all the other priorities that are on them. But I'll say that was my own struggle. I had to get over that hurdle and stop seeing it as something where I was being selfish by taking some time for myself, and just start viewing it as not time for myself, but something I had to do to take care of other people and take care of my clients. My clients need me to sleep well. My clients need me to feel good. My clients need me to be healthy.
Right.
If I've got a heart attack at 45 years old, what good is that going to do anybody? So once I started seeing it as something I was doing for other people, it became easier for me to get over that guilt hurdle of, especially when I'm an attorney, I'm sitting all day, I'm reading law, and I'm sitting at a computer. I mean,
Right.
there's nothing more sedentary than that.
No, for sure. And it's all about your belief system, just like what you said. Once you change your belief system behind working out, you switched it. And so, that leads me to, this right here. One, before I go right there, is there anything that you have a passion for outside of Polston Tax, outside of what you do right now? Is there any other businesses that you enjoy doing or fun things?
Yeah. Well, okay. So outside of Polston, outside of the NBA, outside of my kids, maybe my kids should have come first. Okay. And then, no, I love writing. I find a lot of people find this really funny, but especially because I speak so much. I've done over 400 speaking engagements in the last 6 years, and I do news segments constantly, and I speak to groups constantly. But I actually am more of a natural introvert in that I love processing my thoughts in writing, and I love writing, and I could write on any. There's so many things kind of boiling up here about, oh, I should write something about this, I should write something about this, and I should write something about this. And the reason I make videos instead of write things is that the reality in the era we're in right now is that people want 5 minutes or less in a video to get some content rather than some novel about the problems with the economy of America.
Right. Yeah. You should write a blog. I don't know if you haven't started a blog or anything like that, but you should do a blog or something. I would.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Because I'm the same way. I enjoy writing as well, but just like what you said, people enjoy the 2-minute entertaining video, the 5-minute entertaining video, or the quick information piece that they can take away and then go about their day. Or they love like driving and listening. A lot of people don't sit down and read these days.
Yeah.
So,
I'm one of those. A lot of Audible books.
See, for me though, with the Audible books, this is kind of off topic, but with the Audible books, I can't retain the information as well as I have to read it, soak it up, underline, take some notes, all that stuff right there. So are you able to soak up the information?
Honestly, it's sort of one of those necessary evils. I don't have the time to stop and read anymore. I just don't give myself the grace, I guess, to stop and read. And I do want to read books. If some book comes out and I really want to read it, I've got drive time that I could download an Audible book and listen to the content.
Mhm.
And I love it, especially when the author will read the book themselves, because then you kind of get those emotions that they intended when they were writing it. But yeah,
Right,
no,
right.
I love a hardcover book. uh, I would say the only time I ever actually read is on a plane.
Mhm.
But then you'll always have the person next to you who's like, "Hey, where are you going?
Right,
Where are you
right, right.
from?"
No, that's true. That's me. I'm that person that's hey, how are you?
Which it's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
No, but I feel like at some point, but I've been on the other end too, where I want to go to sleep and the person's like talking to me, so I'm giving them, I give them good feedback, and then at some point I start, becoming dry with my answers so I can go to sleep. I do this weird thing where if I have an early flight at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I will stay up all night until my flight because I'm afraid. I'm deathly afraid of missing my flight in the morning, so I just
Oh
stay
my
up.
gosh.
Yeah.
I
Um,
I have a great yeah, definitely, probably, hopefully once in a lifetime story. I went to India in November to work with some nonprofits there, and
mhm,
on my flight back, I was so exhausted. It's
mhm.
a time change and all of it, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
messed up on the time change. I'm dead asleep on the plane, and I kid you not, the guy next to me starts tapping me, and
Mm.
then I wake up and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, "So, are you
No
from
way.
wherever we were flying to?" And I'm like, "What?"
Oh, that's some courage though. That takes a level of boldness to do that. To tap someone you have no idea, like you don't know where they're from, who they are, anything like that, and you tap them and wake them up. You
Yeah,
better
he
than
must have
me.
been bored.
You should have slapped them.
Poor guy, he had the middle seat.
Uh-huh.
I mean, planes, talking about being 5'2", the one
Mhm.
place that I'm like, this was made for me is
Right,
an airplane. I don't know how
right, right, right.
anybody else can fit. I'm like comfortably like stretched
Yeah,
out in an
yeah.
airplane seat.
Yeah, no, I always try to. This is you gave a little trick with the healthcare about writing student. This is my trick. If you ever fly Southwest and you don't check in time, just go up to the counter and say you need to get on a what's the a priority or whatever, and they'll ask you like, is anything wrong? And every time I say my knees hurt, and so I have knee I do have like knee problems from like playing in football, but I say that every time, so they let me go on first, and I get the first row with all the leg room.
Oh, there you go. Easy comfort.
Little hacks of life right there.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't know how much time do you have? I don't want to like take up any more
I
time.
have, what time is it? Let's see.
You have to do it.
Let me just let me jump over to this and just text the TV station really quickly.
There we go. See, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to edit this out because I want you to know I'm talking with a celebrity right now, and I feel very honored at this moment.
I don't know about that, but let's
So
see.
as she's doing that, I really want you guys to, as you're listening to this, please, take time to take some notes because there's a lot of valuable information in here from the standpoint of, maybe you run a business and um, you don't understand some of the laws, you don't understand some of the things that are being passed right now. Um, you can listen to this and contact Polston, and they will help you out. From my understanding right now, don't quote me on this. My understanding right now, they will help you fill the information out for free. Um, is that correct? Can you say yes or no on that one?
That is right. We
Yes.
are. Sorry about that. I was supposed to do an interview with the NBC station here, so I just
Mm-hmm.
want to let them know. I am wanted to make sure everyone gets this
Mm-hmm.
information, and we are already helping clients with the EID loans,
Uh-huh.
the PPP loans, the payroll tax credits. There's 2 different payroll tax credits, and everything to do with the COVID-19 economic relief that is
Mm-hmm.
available. Everything to do with business owners and strategy and how you're supposed to use this money, even if you've already gotten the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, part of, in my opinion, the most important piece isn't necessarily just getting the money.
Mm-hmm.
People are getting the money. It's making sure you're doing all the right things after you get the money so that you
Mm-hmm.
get forgiven on the loan amount that you got.
Right, right, right. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And so making sure you do the right thing when you do get the money. That's an important piece. And I kind of wanted to hit on 2 more questions, and then that's it. 'Cause, you know, we spent a long time talking. I know, you know, like I said, everybody, I'm talking to a celebrity right now. This is an awesome
No, not even close. Not
yeah.
even close.
So we were talking off before we started to record about athletes, you know, and I think, you know, not only is it important for business leaders and business owners to maximize their abilities and maximize their potential and be game time excellent, have a mission, have the mindset, maintenance, mastery, all that type of stuff. But I think it's the same thing for athletes. And one of that piece is not only on in the arena, but outside the arena. So can you touch on that as far as, you know, athletes taking care of the money and finances, learning the tax, all that?
No, I would love to talk about that. And that is something we got to talk about before the podcast started. It's one reason I was really excited to join this podcast. And it's something I have cared about, probably as long as I have followed the NBA. And then since then, just thought about more and more athletes. I know I messaged you even before this and said, man, you know, pro athletes right now, I mean, not like anybody's crying a river for pro athletes right now, but with all these seasons canceled and the entire leagues canceled, I mean, they're just out of a paycheck. And I'm always, I am that nerd who looks at, I remember when Steve Nash people were saying, where's he going to go? Is he going to go to Toronto? Is he going to go to California? I calculated, this is the nerd in me, I calculated what his 2 salaries would be in those tax brackets. California as high as it is, Toronto as high, Canada as high as it is. Just because not that even factors into anybody's consideration about where they're going to go. But
they should, though. It definitely should.
But well, Russell Westbrook just went to Texas. Now he's got no state income tax, so that's if you want to even factor it in. But I do think that it's just such a tragedy that, man, these pro athletes are just handed buckets of money. If you were to say another passion of mine, this is it. And they're not given, it's not stressed to them the importance of how they could use that money, because they could be set for life. And on one of your podcasts, you talked about how the NFL stands for not for long.
Right.
And I've talked to 3 other football players that played for the NFL who, 1 was cut and 2 just self-selected themselves out after they just started to see the writing on the wall and decided to start diversifying their own portfolios and figuring out what other options they might have. I just feel like these athletes could be set, but nobody in that whole system of, from the head of the organization to, you know, coaches is really put in charge of how do you help these guys or girls maximize the money they've just been handed, so that they don't, if they get cut or if they can't play again, that they're okay. They're going to be okay. They're not working at, you know, where I just saw an athlete play like at Office Depot or something, you know, and you got to figure it out after you're done, after you're cut. And, you know, your shoes aren't going to feed you and your car's not going to feed you and your house. Oh, by the way, that $2.5 million house also costs $120,000 in taxes every year. Oh, and, you know, down the line, all these things are just liabilities. So I'm not saying don't enjoy your life. I'm not saying like live like a pauper, just, you know, eating ramen noodles, and you can't do that anyway. But there is a great strategy, and I definitely feel like I would love to be in a space where I could just help athletes recognize, man, you were just handed the golden ticket. Like, not only are you having this money now, but you could have it for the rest of your life. And here's the thing, you're maximizing your body right now, but you only have this much of a window. Why don't you maximize this other thing that you're completely neglecting? Right.
No, for sure. And one thing that I did love about the Dolphins is Caleb Thornhill and Eve Patoba, the guy I talked to on my first podcast, is they do. I'm a butcher it. You know, Eve, sorry, I love you. Caleb, I love you too. But they do like this business combine, and it kind of Mr. Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, he had 1 year, he brought everyone, he didn't bring everyone, but everyone flew out to New York, and they went through his he brought business owners out there and all that. It was good. Caleb Thornhill and Eve Toba, they do a great job trying to inform their players on what's next and what they can do after. But I think that's a key piece that athletes, not in college, they should be doing that in college. They should be doing that in high school. So what is something someone in college could do right now to, I guess, help that transition when they go to the NFL, or if they don't go to the NFL, as far as learning about finances?
Yeah, no, I think one thing that I think in general people don't do, athletes and non-athletes in general, the population, I don't think anyone makes a budget. I don't think people think through what things cost. You know, like a good example is somebody might say, oh, let me buy this $700,000 house and the monthly mortgage is going to be whatever, $3,500. Oh, well, that's fine. I can make that. And I just made that number up. I don't know what it would come out to. Right. I can make that because I make $6,000 a month. Well, you didn't. Yeah, that's the mortgage. What about ad valorem taxes? What about property taxes? What about utilities? What about repairs? What about the fact you've got to eat? What about gas? Right. Like, I mean, just all the rest of your life. Like I think that just at a fundamental level, athletes, non-athletes should understand the concept of budgeting. And especially if you're a student athlete, you're in college, money's just you're just there on scholarship. You don't even need to worry about, you don't have to worry about much, honestly, in terms of money. And then you've got this finish line that you think is in front of you where there's a jackpot, and maybe there is, but if there is or if there isn't, start to figure out what are you getting right now that you could save, that you could live on if you're not the one to cross that finish line and get that jackpot of money. Right. And what are you doing right now that can set you up in the future, whether it be a degree, whether it be networking, whether it be recognizing the value of the relationships that you have, whether it be, I mean, college athletes have an enormous opportunity now more than ever to brand themselves and to use their platforms to make themselves an invaluable name, make themselves valuable even when they're in college. You know, in Oklahoma, we just had Trae Young, who just went to Atlanta, and man, that besides his talent, he had already started building his brand and signed contracts before he even started playing, which you know, that possibility is there for college athletes even, and there's rules obviously that prevent you from being able to take monetary value in exchange and all of that. But building your brand before you even graduate is an opportunity that the IRS isn't going to be able to tax you on, but you're building value in yourself and in your brand. And then you can translate that into whatever you want it to be, whether you go pro or not.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. You know, there's so many resources at athletes' disposal that sometimes it's being used and sometimes isn't. But, you know, I think I was having a talk with the career services director at one of the schools, at one of the universities. And I was telling her this, you know, a lot of times people, you know, say, oh man, athletes need they need to take care of the resources. But what I realized is this piece right here, 99% of the world won't do what it takes to accomplish their dream, you know. And I hate to say that, but it takes a level of mental toughness. It takes a level of commitment, and it takes a measure of willingness. Like, are you willing to do what it takes to get what you said you wanted, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And so for you, quick question, you know, I love to end my podcast with this right here. What are 3 tangible action items that people can do right now to better themselves, just in life and in their business?
Yeah, I am a huge believer in, this is going to be me playing on my own words. I believe in believing what you want. And I mentioned that first because you know, to what we were just talking about saying, hey, you know, you're a college athlete and you want to go pro, but also think about this. What is that? How can you, on the one hand, believe this one thing and also have a backup plan? I mean, doesn't that just kind of cancel each other out? Right. And I think, I mean, I say this from my own life. I and maybe because of my life experience, I think it's always, I think you always need to use your intelligence. I think God gave us intelligence to be able to use it, to be able to multiply it, to be able to benefit others, and to be able to benefit ourselves. You got to use your logic. You got to use your intelligence that you've been gifted with. But the greatest gift that we have that we need to use is, number one, and this is what I practice, you got to believe in a dream. You got to believe in a dream. You got to believe it's going to come true. And you don't ever cancel yourself out. Planning for other options, plan B, plan C, plan D, doesn't mean you cancel out believing plan A is going to come to fruition. And I think that's number one. I mean, and I say that, you know, I kind of look at my own life, and I told you about, you know, my dad passing away. I at that age, I didn't have this, you know, you believe it and it's going to come true. But I can say that would never have been plan A, B, C, D, E down the list. That would never have been part of the plan. And I completely accept sometimes your plan is not the plan. And that's got to be okay too. And that would probably be my second point is you do, besides just having that plan and working towards it and believing it and seeing it and dreaming it and speaking it into existence and all of those things over yourself all the time. I mean, you got to be your number one cheerleader and champion. Not in an arrogant way, not in a way that you think you're better than everyone else, but you got to believe in yourself. Number one. Number two, I think you, right in line with that, I think you have to know you are not the smartest person. You are not the greatest at anything. Somebody will always come along and be better. Even if you are the best right now and you got the award for it, someone's going to come, someone's going to see your award and want it and get it. And you have to have grace for yourself that you may not, everything may not always be exactly what you wanted it to be. And that's part of the plan. And you've got to learn to continue to find the fight in yourself when your plan is not the plan. And that would be my number two, would be, you got to have that faith. You got to have that faith. There's still plan, there's still purpose, and you don't know it all.
No, for sure.
And number three, my third, and it's not even third, but I would say life is not about you. It's just not. And I know that sounds like it doesn't reconcile with the other two things I just said, but I think you got to live your life. I think it's natural to think about yourself and maximize myself and do this and, you know, every day, what am I going to do today? I think that the thing that needs to drive you the most is other people. How can I bless other people? How can my life be of benefit to other people? How can I use my resources to benefit other people? What strengths do I have that other people need? What money do I have that I could give other people? Right now, I'm looking at, you know, what organizations, who's in most need right now, who's literally not putting food on the table, and what organizations are making sure those people are cost effectively, better than going to the grocery store, are getting them what they need right now.
No, I definitely, those 3 points are big. Believe, you know, even though I know you tried to like downplay it in the beginning by saying it's cliche, but it's not really cliche, because if your belief system is off, you know, you won't accomplish anything. And I've seen talented football players whose belief system was so bad, you know, that the average football player who confidence was through the roof, you know, they did way more on the football field. And it's the same thing in life. If your belief system, if you have limiting beliefs about what you want to do, you're not going to accomplish it. This won't happen. And then the next thing is having faith, having grace for yourself, because you know, I'm terrible at that. If I don't get the results that I wanted, you know, I get down. I'm like, I'm not good enough, all that stuff. And then I have to remind myself, okay, maybe that was just a learning. You know, you do two things in life. You either win or you learn. Maybe that was just a learning phase for me, and to get to the next step, or to redirect me into another plan. And so I love that right there. And then the last thing is serve others, you know, because Eve Batoba, he came on here and he said this right here: your greatness is measured by how many people you serve. And I think when you know your life is bigger than you, that actually gives you another level of mental fortitude as well, because it's easy to quit on yourself, but if I know I'm quitting on my daughter, oh my goodness, that gives me another level of, okay, I got to push through this even harder compared to if it was just about me. And so I
Yeah.
think that's so big, and especially everything you've been saying throughout this entire podcast is serve, 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 serve. I just want to serve business owners. I just want to serve in my business. I just want to let my employees know I am serving them as well. And so I think that's a key piece from when you were young to now that you've been living by, is just having a servant mentality. Um, so,
Yeah, I
so
would say I think that I don't know how people would go through life thinking life is just about them. Honestly, it's like I can't even put myself in those shoes because it just seems not worth it.
right.
Honestly, I mean, why as an entrepreneur, I want to think about big things and big ideas and big vision. And big vision is not what can I do with my life, because that's a small fraction in the grand scheme of life even.
Right.
I mean, what can I do for other people is going to be legacy. And that's not even about me. It's about the legacy of other people's lives and the bigger vision and the world and what's the impact you can make. I like thinking big, and thinking about yourself and life being about you just seems so not just shallow, but so small.
Right. No, that's so true. Man, see, there's so many other like topics we can go down right now, but I know you got things to do, and I really appreciate you taking the time to bless this podcast, with your presence. This is my first time having a celebrity on
Oh
here.
my gosh. Thank you so much for having me on. This was actually so much fun. And I'll tell you something you'll never get to experience. But to my second point about just having grace and, sometimes your plan is not the plan. One thing that a lot of women get the benefit of, and I don't know if women are going to say it's the benefit, but I have 3 kids. I had 4 pregnancies. One was a miscarriage. But the whole thing, I can tell you, no part of me wanted to get fat, wanted my feet to swell up, wanted my back to hurt, wanted this enormous stomach in front of me. Like none of that stuff was part of the plan, but I knew it was part of the journey that had to happen, and it definitely wasn't about me. And the one that was the miscarriage, I mean, that was definitely not the plan. It was the suffering without the joy. And those 4 journeys just reaffirmed, man, this is not at all what I want, but this pain is part of the journey to something that is going to be the greatest treasure of all.
Right. Wow. I have never thought about pregnancy in that way. That is actually, that is actually like pretty cool to think about, and wow, women, you guys, I'm telling you, I have like so much respect for women though, just from the standpoint of like that right there. I can't even imagine going through, it's 9 months. Yeah. 9 months of, getting big and feet swelling and
you have no control. I mean, I guess you could control it a little bit, but
I don't know. How much control do you have?
Yeah, not much.
Yeah. And so no, I appreciate you saying that, because even even when you're birthing a dream, there is pain within the journey, but when you birth it, that brings you so much joy from the journey that you experience, from the late night staying up to the doubting to the disbelief from other people, all that type of stuff. So I appreciate you saying that right there. And Rachel, where can before we end this real quick, where can people find you, as well as how can people get services done from your Polston?
Yeah, they can text our office or call at 844-841-9857. And my email address is rachel.pappy@polstontax.com. So either one of those, if they need help, we're more than happy. We're helping business owners and self-employed individuals all across the nation right now. We are so excited to be in the thick of this right now, helping people who need it the most. And we just want to encourage people, stay home, stay hopeful.
Okay. And then on LinkedIn, everyone, man, she drops gems on LinkedIn. Y'all need to go, like, if you can connect with her. I mean, it's a little different than Instagram and Twitter. It's not like you just follow someone. I guess you can follow her on LinkedIn, but go follow her on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
go. She gives a lot of great information right there. That's how I was able to find out about the EIDL. Yep.
Got it.
Boom. And then the PPPL from that right there, because me personally, which I should start watching more of, I should start watching more of the news, but I don't watch too much of it because it's a lot of garbage that is out there.
Yeah.
So I try to stay away from that and protect my mind. But
Yeah.
so I appreciate that. And Rachel, I hope you have a blessed day and kill the interview you're about to do next. And I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this and hope to continue watching your podcast in the weeks to come.
All right, awesome. Everyone, be great. Everyone, be game time excellent. Focus on your mission, focus on your mindset, and continue to master the skills you need to master, as well as take care of yourself. The maintenance of your life is so important because other people are depending on you to complete the marathon, not just the sprint. So y'all have a blessed day.